In this video, we'll begin to build out our website using CSS, laying on top of the HTML that we've already finished. In this particular video, we will be looking at how to begin to style the content for our website. So before we get started, let's note that we have finished our design, and it's worthwhile for us to make sure that we have our markup and content all up to sync with that design. So if you've made any changes to the order of your images or any of the sizes or anything like that, you want to make sure to go through and update. So for example, I changed the order of the articles on the main page and in the article list. Same thing with the products here and in the product list as well, including that I came in and replaced the smaller thumbnail image that I still had in when I copied this whole list over from the article list page. Replaced this smaller one with the larger cover, since that's what we're going to have here in the build out from the design there. Okay, so just want to make sure that you double check to do the same thing yourself, updating any of the articles with the new images, updating any of the products with your new images, and so on and so forth. So the next thing we want to do is to begin to set up the fonts that we need for our design from the Google Fonts API. So we're going to be finding the fonts that we used. For example, we used Jost, and add in the weights that we know that we need for our design. So I would choose the weight that I'm looking for, such as medium, and click select this style, and that's going to add the style to our library. You can open up the library if it didn't open up for you automatically by clicking on this little icon here, where you can see that we've loaded up Jost medium, which is the 500 weight. Okay, so what we need to do then is go through our mockups and figure out what different font settings and weights we've used. You can certainly click through each of the elements, check the settings, and make sure that you have that font lined up. Also, if you another way to do this is if you use the text styles like we showed in the last few videos, you can click out here on the artboard to make sure that you don't have any particular thing selected, and you should see some of your local styles, including the type styles. So you could click on the little adjust arrows there and come here to see that, okay, Jost medium is one that we need, and so on and so forth. It's still a little bit of work, so let me introduce you to a plugin that you can use in Figma. You can access the plugins from the menu under plugins, and I have this one already loaded. It's called Font Fascia. If you don't have it loaded yet, you can go to Manage Plugins, Browse All Plugins, and then search for Font Fascia. And there it is. When you install this font, it's super helpful because when you run the plugin, what it does is go through the document, figures out all the different font settings or font families that you've used. So you can see we have everything from Roboto Regular, Roboto Slab, to Jost, and even Arial. So this is finding everything in our document. Now, not all of these are things that we're actually using, so you can open it up and click on this to see the particular places these fonts are being used. So this is the font that's here on the cover card for the project, and Arial is being used in a lot of different places. You may recall that our style tiles have these labels over on the side, and so we can pretty much disregard Arial and Roboto Regular, but we can see in the middle here that Jost Medium is used, Jost Semi-Bold, Roboto Slab Light, and Roboto Slab Medium. Okay, so that's very helpful. So let's go over to the Google Fonts API and add those in. We have Jost Medium and Jost Semi-Bold, and then we want to go back to the main API page and search for Roboto. There's Roboto Slab, where we need Slab Light and Slab Medium. All right, so these may be all that are being shown as being part of our document, but bear in mind that any place that you have body copy or text that may have article names and things like that, there's always the possibility that you could also want to have italic weights and maybe even a bold weight sitting around as well. So if you chose that you wanted to have an italic weight added in or style added in, you would find that style in the list and add it, and you would see it stack up here. You do want to keep these to a minimum because every font that you add in is going to increase the load time. And in this case, I don't even have the option of using italic fonts in Roboto Slab. So that's just a note to put on the side, is that you want to think through what fonts you may also need beyond those that you've actually implemented in your design. Okay, so with all of these loaded in, we're going to click on the Embed tab and then the @ import little bit right here. and copy just that bit. Notice that I have not included the style tags that wrap around this. We only need those when we're placing this whole thing inside the head of a document. But because we want to actually put this in our main style sheet, we're just grabbing that at import in the middle. Okay, so we're going to go to our style sheet, paste this in, and now those fonts are available. So if we go to body and we set font family, we'll want to use the correct family name, which the Google API has also provided for us. Notice that it's given us Jost and Roboto Slab. So I'm actually going to copy both of those and go in here at the top of my style sheet and add a CSS comment block. That is CSS code that will be ignored, but it's nice to have around as a reference. So I want the Roboto Slab to be the default font family. So we just paste that in there, and now you can see that that Roboto Slab is being used. What's more, I probably want to use the weight of 300. That's for the light weight. Remember that the mockup said we had Roboto Slab light. And if we find that same option over here, we can see Roboto Slab light is the 300 weight. So that's an important setting to make sure that we get that lighter weight. Now there are some places where bold is being set and overrides that, which brings up a good point. There are a lot of defaults that are showing up in the browser, everything from default colors on links to default sizes and spacing, and we can spend a lot of time zeroing out our margin and padding and other things like that. But instead of having to do all of that ourselves, let's make use of something called a reset. One of the most famous resets is written by a fellow named Eric Meyer. He is one of the CSS gurus that you may have even seen books by. So if you just Google the Meyer reset, M-E-Y-E-R, you will very likely find this result in the pages, but you can also copy that web address. What we want to do is go down here and grab this portion in the middle, where you can see he's basically selecting every possible tag you could think of, setting all of their margin and padding and border to 0, kind of resetting their font sizes, and doing a number of other really simple things that just sort of level the playing field. So we're going to copy that, but we're going to put it in a new file called reset.css. And we're doing this so that it doesn't load up our actual style sheet with all these other settings. But we can import this thing just the same way we do this actual web file. So if we copy and paste and then replace what's in the middle here with a, in quotes, just reset.css, that's a path that points right in the same folder to the reset.css file. And then we should have, as long as you get both quotes in there, that should level the playing field. So what you see over here now is, oh boy, it's a little scary. It got all very bland and unstyled, didn't it? Well, that's kind of what we want, because we want to go through and put in exactly what we want. You can at least see the Roboto Slab lightweight is being applied everywhere. Okay, very good. So now let's begin the process of putting in all of our type settings. Thankfully, we have all these helpful features over here in Figma that allow us to get a leg up on that. So we actually had heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, brand, etc. So we can think through what we want to do to set up each of those styles. So we've already started on sort of the body settings by putting some styles directly onto the body tag itself, and those are being therefore kind of laid in behind everything. But body is something that we're probably going to have on most of our standard elements like paragraphs and list items. So let's select paragraphs and list items. Notice that what I did here is called a grouped selector, where I have the P tag followed by a comma, and then I just push to a new line and I have the LI tag. And this means that I can select both P tags and LI tags to apply these styles. So if they have these settings by default, then I'm going to go on and set my font size, which reminds me I need to do another little setting there. But the font size here is 13 and there's a line height of 20. So font size is going to be 1.3 rem and the line height is 2 rem because it was 20. Okay. So this is, of course, the technique that we've taught in this course, which you may recall in order to use, we also need to make sure we go into HTML and set font size to 10 pixels. That sort of normalizes the font size to a base of 10 rather than the default base of 16 and makes our fonts a whole lot easier to scale. Okay, so our paragraphs and our LIs are going to be 2 rem by default. And that's going to cover the majority of our sort of normal typography elements. Let's leave it at that for now. I noticed that we also have a margin below of 10 pixels. I suppose we could go ahead and put that on here. So margin bottom 10 pixels. All right, now there may be some cases where we want to override that and zero it out. We may change our minds about that later, but that will do for now. Okay, so you can see that we're already starting to get some of those nice paragraph styles being applied throughout our document. Another easy home run is to go ahead and put in our hyperlink styles. So this would be the A tag, where we want to select the hyperlinks and put in a particular color. Now this brings us to another thing we can do to help simplify life for us, and that is to capture all of these colors and put them at the top of our document so that we can easily get to them later. So I'm going to go ahead and add a couple of other things up here. So this is going to be the primary color, and paste in that hex value. And then we also need secondary and accent, and let's see, we use body and body light. Okay, so now we just want to go and grab each of those colors and put them into our document so that they're easy for us to grab and use again later. So there's secondary, and here we go with accent. And here we go with the body color. And body mid. Oh, I guess I put in body light in the document here, didn't I? Okay, so I have all those colors at access now, so let's just go in and put the actual hyperlink accent color in here. And let's set text decoration to underline to make sure that we get that underline by default on hyperlinks. Okay, so you can see we're getting that hyperlink color that we want, and that is good. That reminds me that we may also want to go ahead and put some default color on the whole place here. Let's see, yeah, let's do it on body. I was thinking we may want to put that down here since it pertains mostly to body things, but I think I'd like it to be default everywhere, so we'll stick with that. So we're going to grab our body hex color and paste that on, and that's good. So small difference, but we can see that it is coming through there. Okay, good. Let's start in on our heading styles. So the first one that we can think of is the brand at the very top, which is indeed our H1 tag. So let's just select H1s and set the color to the primary color. We always want to make sure we get that hash sign in front. If you select and copy the hex value, sometimes it does not include that hash sign, so make sure you always look to make sure you get that hash sign in there. Okay, so in this case we actually also want to change the family to the Jost font family. So Jost font family, and then let's go see what our heading styles are on the brand style. So this is going to be semi-bold, and Google Fonts tells us that Jost semi-bold is 600. So we're going to say font weight 600. And then our size is 42, our line height is 50. So font size 4.2 rem, line height 50 rem, or 5 rem. And then we also need letter spacing. Notice the letter spacing here is 4 pixels, so that's 0.4 rem. I think we could actually use pixels there. And then, let's see, we also need to transform the text to be all uppercase. Remember, we set this here. So that is the text transform. And we want to set it to uppercase. Okay, so we save that, and you see we have made the H1 larger. Now, that H1 actually also has a hyperlink around it. So let's go ahead and make sure that we also change H1A tags to have the correct color and to cancel the text decoration. We want that underline everywhere else. but not here in the header. Okay, good. That's looking the way we want it to look. Okay, very good. So that's our heading 1. Now everywhere else throughout the site we'll be using these other headings, which we have called heading 1, heading 2, and heading 3. So this may be a little bit confusing for a moment, but the key is we want to make sure that we bring over the settings and match the settings here, at least initially. So we're going to say that the H2s, in terms of markup, get the heading 1 style. And so that's going to include some things that were common from up here. We're going to use that Jost font family, but we're going to use the medium weight. The medium weight is 500. So I'm just going to copy this, paste it, change it to 500. And the settings again are 42 over 50, but there's no letter spacing. So I can just copy this. Okay, so my H2s are going to be styled that way. Now, so we need to find some H2s. There's one here, recent articles. There's one here, featured products. So I suppose we could also go ahead and put the right color on here as well. We're using our secondary color. Okay, so now we've got the secondary color applied wherever we have H2s. Now there may be some places where we want to use the H2 style on something that is, or this particular heading style on something that is not an H2. When that case comes up, we may come back here and add a group selector so that we can apply these same styles to not only H2s, but other things, and we'll just tackle that when we need to. Now H3s, or the actual heading 2 style in my document here, may by default need to be very similar to the other one. It's the Jost medium, but it's going to be 30 font size over 40 line height. So you see I copied and pasted. Let's change this to H3. It's going to be 30 over 40. So as we look down, we should see, so these are actually doubling and they have a hyperlink over them as well. But if we go check out like one of our articles, we may see inside of one of these articles, if we had any subheadings. Let's see, that one didn't have one. Let's see, how about the Slack one? Yeah, there we go. We have an H3 here, and you can see that we're getting that appropriate style. Okay, last of all, let's set up the ones for heading H4, which is in the document here, heading 3. I should have named those differently. In fact, if we want to make things a little bit simpler to match between the two, we could actually go in and change these names so that they match. And you may want to do that to make life simpler for you. I'm going to keep them as they are for now. All right, so this is Jost medium as well, but it's 19 over 30. So we're going to copy this, change it to H4, 19 over 30. And this is going to get our primary color by default. So probably the only place we'll see this right now is if we find any H4s that are used in our articles. I'm not too concerned about that right now. Okay, so we have our paragraphs, we have our list items, we have, actually that makes me realize that we actually have a different setting for list items than we do for paragraphs. So I'm actually going to break these two out. It'll be a little bit of duplication, but it may be simpler to recognize them as two different things. In our document, we actually did do that, didn't we? We had body and we had list items. Body, you may recall, had the 10 space below, but list items had the 5 space below. So we're just fixing that like that. Okay. Okay, that feels good. Okay, so next of all, let's see what else we have here. We have the hyperlink style covered, we have the brand covered, so the emphasis and the subtext. Okay, so these are being used in particular places, right? Let's go see if we can find any places where these are being used. So on the site pages, I think it was like in here. So yeah, so here it is. The price is using that, and the product name is using that. Same thing over here, the price is using that. And then I think the author date lines, let's see, here it is. The author date lines are also using that subtext. So let's try something. Let's see if we could do something like this, where we create a class called type subtext. And we'll do another one for the emphasis, type emphasis. Okay. And let's use these classes to convey these styles. Since these are not going to apply to just any paragraph per se, they're going to be used in specific instances, we'll use these classes on those elements. Okay, so when we have the type emphasis, we need to set up a certain set of styles. What are those styles? Let's go find out. So it's Roboto slab medium, 13/20. Okay, let's go set that up. So let's see, font size, font family, Roboto slab is the style by default. And let's see, yep, so we need to grab a couple of things from the paragraph. So let's grab that. I think it's actually, nope, it's there. So 1.3 and 2 rem. Okay, and you know, I have a feeling that most of the places we use that, we also use the primary color. So let's grab that primary color, stick it on there as well. Okay, and I think also, well, let's see, let's hold off on spacing. I'm not sure that we want to put spacing on these by default. Okay, next up, the subtext text is going to use the Joust font family. So I'm going to go up here and grab a whole block of a Joust font family. It is medium, so we can keep the 500, but, oops, I need to look at the right one. And there we are, subtext. So this is Joust medium, so we keep 500, but it's 13/20 with 1 pixel of letter spacing. So 13/20, and we need a letter spacing setting of 1 pixel. Okay, and we're going to use our gray, the body mid color for this guy, and put that on there like that. Okay, so we've got the settings prepared, but now we need to actually use these classes in order to see the styles. So we have instances where both of those styles would be used right here on the home page. So let's go over to the home page and find such instances. So for example, the date author is a place where we use this. So I'm going to leave date author there. That class will remain on the element, but if I put a space and now type in another class name, both of those classes can be used as hooks to apply styles. So if I come in here and I say type subtext, you can see that that date now gets styled the way we want, which makes me realize that we also need the text transform uppercase. Okay, so now we see that gets uppercased. Okay, good deal. So we want to make sure we apply that in each of the places where we have this date author dealio. So again here, and then we also want to put it where we have the prices. Okay, so you can see this is the power of classes. They allow us to reuse styles, so we can apply them simply and easily on any number of elements and get the same effect. So there we have those showing up here. Okay, looking good. Now we need to apply that everywhere that we have the prices and the author dates. So that's going to be in all of my article pages. I need to go in and put this class on here. Type subtext. Okay, and in all the product pages where I have prices, okay, and then on the product index page, again where I have the price, I want to make sure I get it on all 5 products. Okay, let's go check those pages. So we need to go over here to products. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Looks good. And let's just check one of those products. Looks like it came through here as well. That's looking good. All right, and then of course on the articles pages as well. Let me close a few things here. Opening up a lot of files leads to many things open that we don't need open all at once. Okay, so on the articles main page, we need to come in here where we have the date author and paste that type subtext in as well. Now you'll see different people do things different ways. Some would say, hey, why don't you put those type styles directly on the date author class? And that's certainly an option. What I've found over time is that it's nice to sort of isolate your type styles into a distinct tag or class selector so that you can easily look through your document and know that, hey, if that's a paragraph, it's going to get paragraph styles unless it has a type prefixed class on it that is providing an override style. So just a little tip from those who've been down the road a few times more. All right, let's double check these articles to make sure that we got those dates coming through. Looks like those are coming through. Just check one of them. Good, looks like it's coming through there as well. Okay, so next up, let's see if we can get that emphasis style applied. And that one seemed to be distinctly on the product names when we have the product names in a list, like on the home page and in the product page itself. So let's go over and grab that type emphasis class, and then we'll go to the home page where we have a product name. We can see all three of those applied down here. Okay, there's one. And notice that for some of them, okay, I wonder if I made a mistake on that first one, featured products. We may not be seeing, oops, I put it on the wrong one, didn't I? There we go. Good, we're also seeing some of the hyperlink styles coming through there, which we'll circle back and fix here in all-in-one time. Okay, but we got those names coming through. It makes me think actually that we don't have the weight on there that we're supposed to have. See how this looks light, and in my mock-up that's a thicker weight. So let's see, the emphasis style needs to be the Robotoslab medium. And in Google Fonts, that Robotoslab medium is the 500 weight. So let's come on here and say font weight 500. Okay, so now it's looking bold and that's better. Okay, so we need to just add that same class onto our product list page for the product names. So that's our article page. Let's go ahead and close that. There's the product page. So each of the names need to get this class added onto it. Oops. Good. And now let's go preview those product pages, or that main page there, and it looks like we're getting that style coming through. Okay, making good progress here. Okay, so I think we have most of our type styles in place. Now it's just to, oh, actually we need to do the navigation links and the tagline. The tagline is using, what is that using? That's using the subtext style. So we can go, this is something we need to do on every page. So in that tagline, we're going to put the type subtext. Okay, so we want to make sure to copy and paste this into all of our other pages. And we'll just click around to a few pages to make sure that that has been consistently applied. Looking good. Okay, very good. So we got the tagline. We need to do the nav items. All right, so here we go. These would be the list items that are inside of nav. Okay, because we have plenty of list items that are inside of ULs. So selecting all list items would be way too broad. Selecting list items that are inside of UL would be equally as broad, since that's most of how we're using it. So to be as appropriately specific as possible, we could select the nav LIs. However, I believe that we also used the type class of the H heading level 3 here. So here is our first example where one of the styles that we set up to apply directly to H4s, we may also want to apply to other elements. So we could just do a group selector and say nav LI like that, and that would get this to apply to the nav LIs. Okay, Now this is, we have a color on here that may be more specific than we want on nav LIs, but we can get most of the things to come through with that selector. Okay, so if you save, and then we come over here, okay, you can see we've got those enlarged. Oh, and I realize we need the text. Oh, there's a couple more settings that we forgot from our master style for this. In that we need 2 pixels of letter spacing, and we need the all caps. Okay, so let's go ahead and add those on. Text, oops, letter spacing, 2 pixels, text transform, uppercase. Okay, so now those are looking more the way we want them to look. Okay, so there's a lot that they have in common. The one thing that they have different is the color. So I'm actually going to separate this out, and I'm going to say, let's do this. Let's say the color is going to be separated out to just H4s. So I'm going to remove color from the group. Okay, so the color is being, the primary colors are being applied to specifically the H4s. Now the LIs actually have hyperlinks inside them, so to change that color, it would be more effective to select the nav A tag, so the hyperlinks inside of the nav, and so that would be more effective. So we would go, oops, let's do alphabetically. We would go nav A, and in this case, the color needs to be the white color. So we're just going to go FFF, that is white. Which is cool, except now we can't see our nav. So we may also want to go ahead and put the background color on here that we know we'll need when we do our box model styling. So that needs to be the hyperlink color. Let's grab that color. Okay, so you can see that color is coming through the way we want. Okay, so we have the core set of styles applying both to H4s and to nav LIs, but then we have the color specifically set on H4s and specifically set on nav A's, since the A tag would win out over whatever color we put on the LIs. The other thing we need to do here is cancel the text decoration. Okay, and I think that's probably enough for now. Yep. They'll have some spacing things that we'll do when we get into doing our box model stuff. Okay. So I think from top to bottom, we have just about everything done. I suppose one other thing that we haven't tackled is those few hyperlinks that actually look more like buttons. So these, like the view all products and the view all articles down here. So those are another situation where we don't want to just select all hyperlinks to apply these styles, but perhaps a tasteful class on here would help. So let's just use the class of button, which we often abbreviate as BTN. Okay, so we're going to select the class of button. We're going to put that class on both the hyperlinks here, and eventually we'll want to also put that on the hyperlinks at the bottom of our product pages. And for now, we're just going to be concerned with getting those type styles working out the way we want. All right, so in the BTN class, we want a background color of the hyperlink color. We want a foreground color of white. Okay. Did we get it working? Background color. Oops, I forgot my hash sign. There we go. All right, so we're seeing that come through, and then we need some font settings. So these are actually going to be styled like H4s, if I recall, or the heading 3 style. So here's another situation where we may want to stack on the button class to this grouped selector. Now, if you have done different styles, that is okay. You should, you don't need to make use of this grouped selector unless this is also true for your situation. Okay. All right, so H4s, nav LIs, and buttons all have the same type style in my site. So I have used a grouped selector to apply those. But now the button class also needs to have the text decoration pulled off. Okay. All right, so let's just fine tune. Let's just kind of sweep through and see if there's any other things that we need to look into adjusting in terms of font settings. So one of those that I can see is that our article names, this one should actually be white. We'll wait and tackle this one all together when we work on the home page and adjust this guy. But let's see that in a place like this and also on our main articles page, those article titles are getting blue, are being made blue because there's a hyperlink inside of that, I think H2, that is styling it like that. So we may need to do something else like what we did here and go on and say that H1s, that A's inside of H1s and A's inside of H3s actually need to inherit the color. So let me show you another trick with that. We can say H2A and we can say color inherit. And that's going to say, hey, instead of being the blue color that we set you to, inherit the color of the parent. So I'm actually going to go up and change that here. The idea is anytime we can use CSS sort of generic settings rather than specific hex values and things like that, the better off we'll be. So we basically want to say we want H1s to A tags inside of H1s to inherit the color from their parents. So you can see we've successfully done that. Now down here for the the headings, let's see. So H2As, H3As need to color inherit. Okay, and we did also pull off the default text decoration on those. So let's see, I think I'm happy with that. Okay, so those are looking good as we sweep up and down. Okay, so you can see we also have that text decoration coming through in here, and that is because on our article or our products, we have a hyperlink wrapped all the way around all these paragraphs. Okay, so this would be type emphasis and type subtext that are inside of A's. So that would be a little bit tricky. So let's think forward. So we could certainly do that. We could say A that has a type emphasis inside of it needs to get text decoration none. But we're actually going to come in and do some styling on these particular hyperlinks later in order to get our box model things going. So let's just instead put a class on these, call them class of product link. Okay, so we've got that class here. Let's go ahead and put it on all 5 of our products on the main products page as well. All right, so we're going to now go over to our styles and select product link and set text decoration to none. And that removes that text decoration from the hyperlink, which was the actual source of the problem, right? So we still have all of our normal hyperlinks getting that, that underline, which is what we want. But we've actually overridden that in a number of places. Okay. So again, let's continue just kind of browsing through the site. Okay, it looks like we have some box model things here. So this is actually supposed to be a block quote. This is a citation and a hyperlink at the bottom. So I'm going to first of all go to my articles and actually wrap that more link with a paragraph. That would be an appropriate thing to do. So let's see. We want to make sure to go do that on each of the other pages. This is the one we're actually looking at here. Okay, so all of that should have updated each of our articles, and so we're seeing that link looking more the color it's supposed to look. Now, how about the block quote? Block quotes usually have some indentation, and this is a situation where I didn't actually mock up a block quote. So I would formally want to go and look at my articles and the other styles I have going here and think of what a block quote could look like in context. So let's just give us a little bit more space here. We'll actually just use some of the same copy here, but I'm going to put it into a new block. Set it up at some appropriate amount of space. So let's say that this is a block quote, and perhaps we would pull it in, let's see, in context. I don't know that there's anything particular. So I'm just going to go in 40 pixels on both sides. So let's see, did I do it correctly? Draw a rectangle, make it 40 pixels wide, let it butt up against the side there. Okay, I did that right. Okay, good. So we're gonna have 40 pixels of padding on both sides. Let's see, is that enough? You know, maybe we'll do something like a border. That maybe should be, let's see, let's remove that stroke, but add on a light. So I'm going to try to make this border align perfectly with the boundaries of the box like that, and evaluate it. This is good because this allows us to bring in that border that we have around the products in at least one other place. But let's just look and think carefully about it. So let's see, this is at 220 X value, so I want that 20 over. It would be at 240 like that. And then this will be another 20 over. Okay, so the result then is that we're going to take our block quotes and have a 20 pixel margin on the left, and then a border, and then 20 pixels of padding on the left as well, setting it in. Okay, so we're getting a little bit into box model styling, but it's appropriate to go ahead and do this while we're thinking about our text. So you may have noticed, as I have, that whenever I make changes in my document and then try to go, the preview refreshes, it always goes back to the home page. We may figure out how to do that differently, but at the time of making this video, I haven't hassled with that piece yet. So we can certainly pop it out into a new window and pull that window over to the side where we can see it better. And now we can close this preview, get a little bit more of our code available. Okay, what's going to happen now is we'll be allowed or able to actually navigate to the page with the block quote, and then this will stay there. I'll have to just refresh manually as I switch over to check out my styles, but that may be a little bit easier than having to navigate there every time. Okay, so we're going here. Ooh, something happened here. Declaration. Okay, block quote. All right, so margin left 20 pixels. Border left 1 pixel. Oops. Solid, and we'll use that mid color. Spell solid correctly. Okay, you should see that border will appear over here when we refresh. Good deal. So now we just need the left padding. Now in this case, I think we said it was 20. We want the overall text to sit 40 in. So if we went 20 and then added onto that one border, what remains is actually 19 pixels. Okay, so the total space between 20 plus 19 plus 1 is 40, and that looks a little bit better here. Okay, then we also want 40 pixels of right padding to balance that out on the other side. Okay, and there you can see that that's doing what we want. Okay, when we just make the browser window smaller, you see that it's been pushing the text all along. Let's add a little bit of bottom margin. Knowing what we're doing elsewhere, I'm going to say that 20 pixels is probably a good amount to enforce some spacing at the bottom. And then we have this citation text, which we probably want to do the same as paragraphs. So I'm going to come down here and say paragraph, comma, cite gets all of those same settings there like that. Okay. Okie dokie. So that one's looking good. There may be more things that we tweak in terms of spacing once we get into this later. Let's go sweep down the main articles page. Everything looks good here. Let's just check out one other article. You'll want to sweep through each of your articles and make sure that everything looks intentionally styled. And then we've got our products. Main products page looks good. Check out one of our products. It's also looking good. Okay, the buy now link, I forgot about that. From earlier, you may recall that we added that button class, BTN class. So we need to just go onto each of our products and put the class of BTN on that. And that's the wrong page, so we won't see it, but let's see, that's the monitor, so let's put it on there. Okay, good. Okay, so let's just make sure we get that on all of our other products. Okay. Check another random product. Looking good. Okay, so there's still a lot of work to do, but you can see our site is already beginning to take shape. We can now move on to begin to think some more about some of our layouts.